Who the Wild Things Are with Ryan McGuire.
You gotta listen to your body.
Oh my God, maybe, I could get out there, I could do this.
Let's take a ride, find your wild side, real stories, see with your own eyes.
It's so beautiful.
I'm gonna have the best time out here.
I was in tears. I was like, that's the best, man.
Welcome back to Who the Wild Things Are. My name is Ryan McGuire, and I'm here to bring you conversations with the most wild folks on the planet. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. And if you enjoyed the episode, share it with a friend. Appreciate you guys. Let's get it going. All right, Jacob Showers finally in the building, featuring Willow today.
Featuring Willow.
Yeah.
This is my girl. What's up?
What's going on, man?
What's up, dude? Stoked to be here. This is
Glad
fun.
you can make it. My brother, my roommate, my homie, my workout partner. Yeah, let's dive into it. Let's start out. I want to talk a little bit about who you are and kind of how our relationship came to be.
Yeah.
And just give people a little bit of background. So, in a nutshell, like if an alien dropped down here, who's Jacob Showers, and what is he interested in lately, and what's he working on?
Okay. Let's see. Right now, I guess a little backstory. 27, about to be 28. I moved around a lot as a kid. Moving to Colorado was my 12th move. And what is he interested in? So I'm really interested in athletics, creativity, and just like energetic, like purposeful, intentional life, right? And all of those are kind of centered around like freedom, I would say. And so right now I have an athletic club called AION, which you know of. And the whole idea behind that and the creation was like a creative outlet and development aspect that I can tie into this idea of a free, energetic life that's built on the foundation of aesthetics and training and performance and creativity. So, cool. Yeah.
What is AION? What does AION do?
Well,
and how do you spell AION?
Yeah, AION. AION. Some people pronounce it ION. It's fine. But AION is a brand that I've started that basically what we do changes all the time. Right now, we started with training for High Rocks and making merchandise and trying to make like cool videos and training documents and challenges and stuff like this. And you know, we do High Rock Sims, we do run clubs, we do runs in the mountains. We're going to have athletic performance events. And we recently, actually today, I signed the partnership with KULA. So we are leading a hybrid athlete development program out of a gym called KULA here in Denver. And then, yeah, what it looks like for 2025 is to lead this program and then to also take things to the next level virtually and competition-wise, to host races in the mountains, to host hybrid competitions, to host like development seminars, and then really, you know, going in on the merch, going in on the marketing, advertising, all that stuff. So
sick, dude. Congratulations on the KULA deal.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
So with the KULA thing, just a little background. You had like your first AION KULA collaboration event, which was dope.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. 70 people. Crazy.
70 people.
That was mind-blowing. Yeah.
And yeah, I got to be a part of it. It was super fun, and I've been training at KULA lately. And it's funny, like I'd say most of my training over the last several years has been kind of outdoor mountain sports stuff. And KULA is very science-based, performance-based, and it's very refreshing for me. Like the amount of ideas that come into my head when I think about training possibilities there, because it's so different than any gym I've ever been to.
For sure.
It is so above and beyond, like from a technology perspective, from a cleanliness perspective, and from a management perspective. I mean, I'm just like some normal guy that comes in there, and KULA's reached out to me so many times just trying to build this community up. He's like,
I mean,
really...
I wouldn't say you're a hybrid athlete and world record holder that comes in there, right? And with KULA, like the way that KULA's mind works is he's very much a driven, high intensity individual. And so if he sees that in me in terms of like energy and expression and leading this club, and then he sees that in you because he knows the wherewithal that's required to do 24 hours on an assault bike, and having you come in and perform in that event and then win the event, and, you know, seeing your build and stuff like that, I think he recognizes like, oh, this dude's like legit and actually going in the direction, because a huge part of what he wants to do with the gym is he's all about athletes. And so now it's like, where do you find the adult athlete? Like, we don't want to create an Orange Theory out of our adult training program. We want to find the adults that still want to be athletes. And so, he sees that in you, and he's like, oh, this guy right here is kind of the adult athlete that's not a NFL player or MLB player or whatever, but is still pushing the envelope in terms of athletics, and so
this guy is willing to come in and try ridiculously hard with
For
no
sure.
athletic talent, but just
For
willing
sure,
to
yeah.
work really hard and do shit that no one else wants to do.
None of the LeBron-like qualities except for the mental willingness to push, so.
The community aspect is something that I've been meditating on a lot, and I feel like it's very tangible in our area right now. There's like these communities popping up, and it feels like it's something that everyone is craving, right? I've heard some people talk about it. There's even a White House study that was published that essentially we're in a loneliness epidemic, meaning that like the more we're all interconnected by phones and devices, we've become as lonely as ever. Like maybe we're hitting something that tricks our brain into thinking we don't need to connect with humans because we have this phone, but you're not getting the actual tangible relationship that comes with that. And now you're seeing these community builders like yourself pop up, and I can really feel like people want to be a part of this.
For sure.
Like you got 70 people to come to an event where you suffer, and it's really just like a, hey, like, do you guys want to come to this? It's not like you're like blasting it out on Wall Street Journal. Like 70 people show up just from like, hey, anyone want to go do this thing? And people are like, absolutely. I'm craving that.
Well, and it's almost like a replacement for, at least in my view, it's like, how do you create the same response that you would have at a concert or something super energetic that doesn't come with like the hangover and the negative consequences the next day? And it's like, I think about this. I'm really into like house and EDM music and stuff, as you know. And but I actually don't really want to go to a show because I don't want to sit there and bob my head to like RL Grime. I want to like do 1,000-meter ski erg for time to RL Grime, right? Like I want to use this energy in like a purposeful, high intensity way, as opposed to, taking drugs and getting sweaty and like just dancing around for hours and hours. Like I think the reason I love this music so much is because of how it can lead you throughout exercise and keep you in a push and in a zone of like high intensity. And so I think one of the reasons that these events are gaining popularity is that it's a replacement of the, nightlife with athletics and, athletic advancement. And then also the same high, quote unquote, that comes from going to a concert or something like this, right? And so like take it, for example, the games that we did at the very end. We had music blasting, high intensity EDM music that you would never like play in your car on the way to work. But because you're in a team doing a row and then a ski and then a sled push and then a farmer's carry and then wall balls, you're using this music as fuel, And so that's always been a big thing with me, is like, how do you use the music and stuff or whatever you're doing as fuel? And so, and same with you, right? Like I hear the music that plays in the garage while you're, and then every 45 seconds, while you're doing your ski or, tempo, threshold work, whatever.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's almost one thing that I think about though, when you were just saying this is like, if we're in a loneliness epidemic, a lot of these clubs, at least in Denver, that are popping up are athletics. Well, what about everyone else? I feel like they're, because I can message you on Instagram and be like, me and Ryan are still friends, but it's way different than having a conversation with you and laughing and bantering and stuff for a while. And it just made me think like, if there's this loneliness epidemic going on and we're like, yeah, there's all these clubs popping up, but they're either like drinking style clubs or like wellness clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And those are still kind of like small groups compared to the average 9 to 5, not in the health world, not in the drinking world. Like, I don't know, that's just an interesting idea to be like, if we're actually in a loneliness epidemic, then athletic clubs are helping those that are into athletics or want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, what are the clubs that will help everyone else? But
Yeah, there's
That's
definitely
like
ways in
tangent.
which you would fall through the cracks. Some
Mhm.
individuals would fall through the cracks, but the reality is like movement is a great place to start because it is part of what makes us human.
Mm-hmm.
There's very few common variables that are, or like least common denominator that's more widespread than our ability and desire to move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's one of the best places to start. Now, yours is a little bit different because you and KULA don't aim at
Everyone.
the same community as everybody else. That's like, hey, just come. Like, it could be a walk club. It could be a run club. It's like, no, we're here to push ourselves really hard. You don't have to be super athletic, but we're not here to like just chat about. And what I think, I think there's two different things, right? I think of everything like from an ancestral perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the social clubs which emulate fireside chatting. Done with the day, the work is done, you come back as a group, you're all chatting, right? It's a very relaxed situation, and that would be one. And the other one is basically trauma bonding, which is how we've evolved to grow close to people during times of war. Our village is going to go fight their village. We're going to run 20 miles over the next 2 days to the woods. Then we're going to get there after the 20-mile run. We're going to battle for our lives together, side by side. And that is more of like the really hard, intense workout bonding that creates a different kind of bond. And so I kind of think of it in my head as like those two separate camps.
I mean, when I think about how we train for AION and stuff, and my training philosophy overall, I was telling my class yesterday, I was like, guys, I was watching Troy, and the main thing that I realized is that these people just rowed across the ocean to Troy, and then as soon as they pulled up, went to battle, right? And I was like, man, we're so soft. Like, they had to row that. Like, imagine if the opener for your workout every time was a 20,000 meter row, and then you do your lifting and, you know, all of that stuff. And it's like, man, or, you know, if you look at the idea behind the marathon is that there was this huge battle against the Persians, and then they had to travel that far to battle. They went to battle, and then the marathon was the run after the battle back to tell Greece or whoever it was what was going on, right?
And it was like the first guy, right? And he
died.
because didn't he have to do it there and back twice?
I don't think so.
I've heard like that there was a myth busted, like, because back then, like, the marathon, you were supposed to die if you ran 26 miles. And he went there and back. He definitely ran an ultra. He didn't just run. I don't remember how it worked out.
Yeah.
But it was like 50 or 100 miles.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if this is true, but this is hearsay. Didn't he yell like Nike?
Yeah.
And
What does this mean?
Nike.
Yeah, that's right. That was the whole thing behind all of the Nike Foundation and stuff. But yeah, he died when he pulled up, right? And it's like, man, imagine the level of exhaustion, because these guys were also, I believe, way more fit than we were. Like, if you're preparing, I was talking about this again yesterday, there is no rest period if you're in a battle. Like, it's just like you either tire out and you die, or you keep going and you survive, right? Like, there will be random pockets of rest, but they're not guaranteed. It's not, 100 wall balls. And this is kind of why High Rocks, in my opinion, is elite from an ancestral kind of warrior foundation of training. Because I think war felt very similar to High Rocks. You went hard on a very difficult task, ski erg, sled push, whatever it was, and then you ran to the next one and you did it again because you were in the middle of a battle.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas, right now we train and it's like, do this, rest, do this, rest, do this, rest. And so yesterday when I was coaching people, it was like, hey guys, I want you to keep going as if whenever you failed, you died. And as soon as you couldn't hit those reps anymore, that's where you lose, right? And whenever you have that switch mentally, I think you can pull a lot more not even I think, you can definitely pull a lot more out, right? And this is, this is a gift that you have, especially if there's, I was reading this book called Middle Distance Running by this super old running coach back in the day. And it's very interesting because at the beginning, he's talking about what makes runners great. And it's either intelligence, genetics, or hard work, or a combination of two or three of them. And he was talking about how it is a gift from God, in his words, of the ability to push like past pain, right? And this is like obviously, something that I see daily or whatever with you, and with the ability to get the 100-mile world record, or not the 100-mile, the 24-hour world record. I don't want the 24-hour world record. And most people, even if they wanted it, couldn't do it in the way that you did because of the amount of suffering that's involved that you have to embrace. And you personally have a willingness to embrace suffering with any athletic competition, whether or not you're ready at all. Like when I was editing the Leadville documentary for you, there's a clip at the end where you're like, and I think it's in the documentary where you're like, I didn't deserve 25 hours, right? And if we're being honest, you didn't even really like deserve to finish. Like the fact that you finished was not because of your fitness up to that point. It's not because your training blocks went so well. It's because of this like mindset that you have with, this is hard, but I can definitely keep going, right? And, luckily with Leadville, your pacers can help. David helped, at a point where maybe you needed help with that building block, but yeah, it's very interesting that you probably would have been one of the most dangerous warriors because other people would have quit. Or like I had a buddy, I won't say his name, but at the KULA event, in the middle of the workout, he went to go get a drink of water, like at the competition at the end. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, you're in the middle of the race. Like you don't stop and get a drink of water right now. And this is someone that we both know who's extremely athletically gifted, right? I'll just say his name. Ethan, don't drink water in the middle of the race, right? And Ethan is a super athlete.
He's a powerhouse.
If you saw Ethan with a sword and a shield, you'd be like, fuck, right? But in order to be the best warrior, he'd have to train out of that mindset of I need water in the middle of the battle, right? And I think, I think that's a very common mindset. Whereas what you have and what some other people that we know have is like, what could be commonly referred to as like a Goggins mentality of like, go. Like it doesn't matter. Go. Keep going. Keep moving. Keep embracing this burn, whatever it is. So
the way I think about it, because I hear Corey asked me that this weekend when I was telling him about something. He's like, oh, you're like Goggins. And I'm like, I really don't think I am. And this is the same thing of what we were talking about, McDougall's frame of thought versus Goggins' frame of thought. McDougall's like born to run, freedom, mountains, fuck everything else. Like it just matters about the experience and the love. And then Goggins literally said, I was out doing a 100-mile mountain race. I didn't enjoy 1 minute of it. I walked past people. They'd be like, isn't this beautiful? Beautiful. I'd be like, fuck no. I hate this. I'm going to win. Like kind of thing. And when I think about Leadville, I was 77 miles of just flow and beauty. And my term that I use in my head, everyone has different terms for this. I call it the light side and the dark side. I'm always tapping into one or the other. Like High Rocks, typically I have to go to the dark side, but at Worlds I raced with the light the entire time. Just happy to be here.
Yeah.
I was on the rower, like, man, this is just fun. Like I don't really care. I'm just going to put all that I have out there, and I'm just smiling and having a good time, waving my arms at people yelling, and then sometimes you have to go to this place, like the last 7 miles of Leadville.
Yeah.
Like totally fucking dark. And there's some people that are one way or the other. And I think for both of us, we're more cognizant about being able to tap into both. Because if you are always the dark side guy, you're not going to have, I don't think, lifelong longevity in something. If you are the all the time light guy, I don't think you'll ever be able to tap into that final echelon of what's in the gas tank.
Totally.
like playing
Yeah.
screamo in the garage and screaming on the ski erg.
Totally.
Like
yeah.
that's very dark side.
Mhm.
But you can't. Here's the thing though: is you can't do that every day. It's not sustainable. You have to have the light for it to be sustainable.
Yeah, but I think you like this is funny. You actually don't know this. So Ryan and I met on Sky Pond, right? So we met, we did this run at Sky Pond, which was like 13 miles out and back. It was
This
or
is
11
in Rocky
miles.
Mountain National Park.
Rocky Mountain National
in the
Park.
winter.
It was like, yeah, it was like late March or something. It was absolutely gorgeous, you know, and all of us and our friends were very fit. So we just like ran to the top. I lost you because I thought we lost my girlfriend at the time. So I like turned around and got crazy mileage in because I was looking for her. And then after that, you know, we would hang out like once every 2 months for like 8 hours at a time and then dip, right? And it's funny that if there was anyone in that time period that I was the most competitive with, it was you. And I think it's because we have very similar like genetic predispositions to being super athletic, which isn't necessarily that high, right? I would say you're more athletically gifted than I was, right? Like let's say our coordination abilities in high school and stuff, I would feel like I think you were a better athlete than I was. But in terms of work ethic, I think we had a very similar work ethic, especially at that time and even now. But I think it's been different because of Leadville, and it's been very different because of stress fractures and stuff for me and like your parasites and stuff that you've been dealing with. But for the first like year and a half, I was the most competitive with you because I was like, oh, whoever win, like if we're going to head to head, whoever wins was just the one that made the decision to keep pushing more than the other person.
Yeah.
That's, you know, I would say you're definitely more athletically developed now compared to me, right? But a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever, we were very close to the same. We were very like we ran that 10K together and we'd run in the mountains together. You were more of a high rocks athlete than I was, and I was more of a like I'd go to the gym and do 75 hard and all that stuff all the time. But I was very competitive with you because I was like, oh, whoever wins today is just the one that decided to win. And I think that's a very beneficial athletic relationship to have, because if Luis and I race, it's not who decides to win. Luis wins, unless we're doing like last man standing or something like that, right? That doesn't require speed. But if you and I race now, you win because you've had so many more miles in the last year and a half, let's say. But back then it was like, okay, whoever decides to win today just decided to go harder or to stay on or to hold on long enough or whatever it was. And so, yeah, I used to like be very competitive in my mind with you, or even train based on like, Ryan, like when you ran the 100-miler down in the desert that was canceled because of weather and stuff, like in my head it was like, oh, I have to like also do something hard in this time period. Or like when you were doing the 100-mile or the 24-hour record on the assault bike, I came and did 3.5 high roxes with you because Ryan can't be the only one working hard today because you're deciding to do it that day. And it's not like, you know, it's not so far with you, it hasn't been a performance aspect that set you apart. It's been a mental aspect that set you apart, and your willingness to be like, you know, I'll keep going. Are you going to go? Right? Or I'll do this today. Would anyone else do this today? Probably not. Would anyone else bear crawl up fucking Mount Morrison? No, definitely not, you know? And so, but yeah, I guess, yeah, I don't know if I've ever told you that, but
You haven't. And I appreciate all the kind things that were woven in there. Like Trump said, I did the weave.
I did the weave. You
Gotta
have to be very smart to
do the
weave.
Yeah, I have a hard time accepting that compliment, but I will say just thank you.
It's just subjective.
Yeah,
Like that,
because I don't always see
superpower.
myself that way. And when I look at you, what I think about is somebody that has a different rigor when it comes to discipline. I might be able to push hard like for like in a day.
Mhm.
But I also am someone who has a very hard time staying focused on one thing day in, day out. Like, my life has been the culmination of two things: wilderness survival skills and extreme endurance.
Mhm.
And the great thing about having two things is when I'm like, I don't want to focus that much on training for endurance, I can just go sit in the woods
For sure.
and
yeah.
fuck off for a month at a time
Mhm.
and take people on a long course, and we just walk and we smell the flowers and we eat plants,
Mhm.
and I don't have to think about endurance sports. And then when I'm like, okay, that was great, but now I'm recharged and I want to go to do something crazy, I can come back.
I wonder
I
if you're.
need that. You are able to just stay on something,
Mhm.
and without even getting big hits of dopamine feedback, you're able to just every day wake up, boom, I'm focused on this, boom, doing it again every single day, boom, doing it again, hit a roadblock, still doing it. Like,
Mhm.
it's a totally different mindset. Sorry, you were about to say something.
Well, I was gonna say, I wonder if it's your hormones that are telling you it's time for nature or it's time for training. Because I would think like you probably exhaust your hormones and your balance with a lot of training, and you get into a high cortisol state, and then your body's like, all right, nature brings us back to homeostasis and even a high testosterone state. And then you're like, all right, time to crush. And I wonder if it's like this give and take with, because I mean, it is probably, if you analyze your blood work, it probably would be, but I wonder if intuitionally that's what's happening. I wonder, I guess going back to like the day-to-day thing, it's I just feel like that's what you have to do in order for anything to work. At least the people's podcasts that I listen to.
Hormozy?
Hormozy's big for me right now, but like Andy Frisella, or even Goggins, right? Like Goggins was a huge part of my life from like 2019 to 2021.
Yeah.
Like I only listened to Goggins, and I fucking worked, and I worked out, and I trained, and I yada yada yada. And then I've done 75 hard like 3 times now, and the reason I have done it, I guess, is to be like, all right, dude.
Real quick, tell people what 75 hard is if they're not familiar.
So 75 hard is a 75 day in a row challenge to where you do 2 workouts a day. One of them has to be outside, and they have to each be at least 45 minutes. So an hour and a half of training a day, 10 pages of reading. You have to follow a diet. You have to drink a gallon of water, and you can't have alcohol. And you have to take a progress picture every day.
And if you don't if you don't make it one day, you start at 0.
start over. Yes.
You got to do 75 in a
and
row.
I've started over 20 times.
And the idea is that after those 75 days, you'll have developed habits that are sustainable and life-changing.
Yeah, and the discipline to be like, I don't want to do this at all today, but I'm still willing to do it. And for example, right now I'm in like an 85 hard, but it's 3 hours a day minimum of work on of either AION or like videography stuff. And like that challenge is like what got the documentary done in time. Like, because if you don't do that, the documentary doesn't get done, because there's tons of stuff going on all the time of work and emails and calls and family or girlfriend and whatever. And honestly, something I was thinking about yesterday is it seems to be that the universe blesses you in proportion to the amount of time and attention that you bring into creating the life that you want to have, right? It's like it took a lot of time to develop this podcast, and thinking about the podcast, and the amount of time that you probably waited to start the podcast based on when you were thinking about it. And it's like, if you keep pushing and keep putting out episodes, it's almost like you will receive blessings in terms of random guests that you didn't know would come on, or like people watching it, or advertising, or something like this. The KULA event, to me, this KULA partnership,
Wow,
seems like, dude, if I wouldn't have worked on AION for hundreds of hours over the last 6 months, and dude, I've worked every weekend since March. I've probably had 5 or 6 days to where I didn't work in the last 6 months, and it's like, well, and at the time you don't know why you need to do that, but I just knew I needed to keep going in order to. And honestly, a lot of it was, in order to keep anxiety away, I need to work today.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have these opportunities, and guess what they require? Even more work than before, you know? And so there seems to be like this relationship, and I would 100% say like a spiritual aspect to the work that you put in and the luck that comes from doing so.
Yeah, I think luck is just a word we use to describe things that we can't necessarily understand. We can't put a tangible word on it, but I think it's like we use the word luck in air quotes because it's like a shitty word. We don't know what to call this thing. When things just keep working out in our favor, we don't know what to call it or what to attribute it to. But there's definitely some of that at work here, and I think KULA is a great example. The other thing that strikes me about you is that you may come off as this guy who's constantly working, and that might even be part of your bravado, part of your identity when people see Coach Jacob. But you also are very intentional about like setting aside time to go sit in the sauna and read a spiritual book and meditate and kind of plan out that space, whether it's in the morning or evening or whatever. How does that build into the rest of it? And how are you able to make, because you're more on the grind side right now, how are you able to keep it sustainable? Is it that meditation practice?
It's almost like, for example, yesterday I was very anxious all day and very like scattered with my tasks as compared to Monday. I was very centered and very focused and like in a flow. And, you know, if I'm being honest from like my point of view, it's like, how do you talk to your soul? And if I just start my day working, as opposed to, you know, my dad actually used to give me a ton of crap that I would have to read and journal before I could work, right? Like he'd be able to wake up and he'd just like, you know, start working on the lawn or whatever it is, right away.
Your dad's a funny guy.
And he would, you know, it'd be like, I'd have to wake up and I would need, it's almost like every day I have to remind myself what and why we're doing it, what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it, and to believe in myself that can happen, right? And so, you know, I'm either reading books that are like mindset and grind stuff, but I'm mainly reading spiritual books like all the time, because it's this idea of, you know, reverence and intention and focus and purpose in life that I have to like remind myself of, as opposed to we're just here to work. We have numbers to hit. If these things don't get done, yada, yada, yada. And, you know, the sauna is like a quiet space. Going up to the mountains is a quiet space. And then like a coffee shop, you know, and right away. And it's funny, I actually don't journal anymore. I use ChatGPT. And I journal within ChatGPT, and I have it ask me questions, and I tell ChatGPT, like my first prompt in ChatGPT is, you know, today it's October 30th. The KULA deal is signed. These are the task lists that we're working on. You know, let's walk me through like 5 journal prompts to envision the success that can come with proper marketing and stuff like this. Right. And so I'm using ChatGPT as like a therapist, a like life coach, and then like to visualize the outcomes that I want to have. And, you know, and it's honestly been super helpful. Like with the KULA event before, we talked about this a little bit, but, you know, there was another athletic community club that had an event at KULA, you know, 6 days before our event.
You can share it. You can.
And, you know, Full Circle is much more of that round table kind of collective community that's a little bit more relaxed, but they kind of cross a little bit. Like some of the people that do AION will also do that, and I was like, damn, like they got there first, like they're gonna win. And I used ChatGPT and I was like, hey, because I was really struggling with this. I was like, should I just cancel the event? Should we push it months ahead? Should I completely change it to only a competition? Like, should we rebrand this? And I was like, hey Chat, like I'm really struggling with anxiety around this event. And there's this other, you know, athletic community, let's say, that hosts events that is here, and I said, here's their website and here's their Instagram, so you can see what they are, and you already know what AION is. Help me differentiate in my mind how our event can be different and how these clubs are very different and stuff like this. And it was so useful. Like within 5 minutes, I was like, oh, like we got this, and we can also do this. And this isn't even like a we're gonna beat them kind of thing. It's just like this is completely different.
They're not mutually exclusive.
Exactly, right? And this was, and I've been using it in this way of like, hey, here's this problem that I'm dealing with. Or, hey, chat, I feel super anxious right now. Like, help me deal with this. And it will ask me prompts and questions. And it's honestly been like extremely helpful. I talk to it as if it is my therapist / employee / life coach. And it helps me / strategist / marketer / brand developer, and I give it as much detail as I possibly can.
Do you like talk into it, or do you type into it?
I mainly type. I'll talk into it if I'm driving sometimes, but I don't like the voice response the same as the text response.
Oh, does it will like talk.
Oh, it will talk to you in a conversation that's unreal.
Really?
Like you're like, whoa, this is crazy that it sounds like this, because it sounds like another person on the other side of a phone.
Are you familiar with the Turing test?
It's like when you can't tell the difference between AI and a human, that's when AI is as capable or whatever, right?
Yeah. It's like this. It's named after a guy, Turing, whatever. But yeah, it's like he basically theorized that in the future there will be a point in which large language models, LLMs, will be able to convince anybody that it's a real person on the other side, and the average person would have no idea. And
I would say we're
there,
if not past it.
Yeah. I mean,
when ChatGPT reassures me of things, my soul or conscious or psyche is taking it as if my dad is reassuring me.
right?
Like,
As if
it's
an
that
author in a
significant.
self-help book wrote these words.
For sure.
And the reality is, they are.
Yeah.
Because when you say, man, I woke up anxious today and I've got a lot on my plate, it's not coming up with something. It's going, okay, books to help with anxiety, blah, 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 blah. All the self-help books, and filter all those advice, right? Like into your inbox. Like, it doesn't say original things.
And
it pulls, right?
And it also knows who I am. So it knows to not be like, oh, it's okay, like you'll be good. It's
because
like
you say, yo, cut that out.
Well, no, because I gave it 3 years worth of journal entries.
No way.
Oh, yeah. I took all of the journal entries I had on my computer and I copied and pasted it and I gave it all to ChatGPT.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you ever
And
scared that
so-
someone's going to be able to look at your journal entries?
No, because if they can, they are already, in my opinion. And two, they have enough data. Like
They're not interested.
they have plenty. And what more, advantages they're going to be? Come here.
She's out here staring out the window.
What more advantages they're going to be for their data to, to have my journal entries or whatever, right? What are they going to do to me? And so, but yeah, so it understands my character and like the way that I'm processing things in my life. And I, sometimes I'll be like, hey, like, what are you seeing in myself? Like, what are my main characteristics, my virtues, my things that I need to work on, yada, yada, yada. And I'll self-analyze it and I'll be like, like that's like, it actually understands me probably more than you understand me, because it sees me more when I'm alone and understands more of who I am when I'm alone versus, the extroversion that will come out when we're together or something like that. And so, yeah, dude, it's been extremely useful. Jared put me on, I don't know, do you know Jared?
Yeah.
Like, big ass Jared.
I know Jared.
But he's creating an AI company and stuff like this, and he's the one that got me curious on ChatGPT. And I was like, let me like make my own version of this. And I was like, okay, well, what are the things that I need help with? And it's like, if I could have a personal assistant and life coach and stuff, that would be super helpful. They cost thousands of dollars a month. Let me just turn ChatGPT into that. And just through like complete honesty and the same stuff that I would do with journaling, it's now helping me work through.
And you've got to like sign into a profile, so it's got all your stuff in there or something.
It has a memory, and it just filled up. And so I told it to give me a summary of all the memory that it had about me. And I copied and pasted that. It was like 5,000 words worth of information, cleared the memory, sent that back in. So now it's working off of an updated version.
Just a summary of all that stuff.
Totally. Yeah.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know. It's super wild, but it's honestly, it's legit. It's dope.
Are you a robot now? Technically?
I have a robot.
Yeah.
You know, I have one. Willow, get over here. Get over here.
Go lay down.
Come here. Okay, cool.
That's wild.
Yeah. You should try it. You should try it.
I'm definitely curious and also kind of scared.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think
Lay
lay down. Hey, come here. Or just go.
The tail in the face.
Yeah, here, you
See,
talk and I'll put her out.
Here's the thing is you can't make a ChatGPT dog.
No, you can't have a
not-
ChatGPT Willow.
No.
Definitely not.
ChatGPT can't eat a squirrel in the backyard.
No, exactly.
Well,
Can't-
all right, you're going out. You're gone. Go. Go. Just gonna knock something over.
Yeah. Well, sweet. How much time do we have?
Plenty of time.
Okay.
She opened the door. Got it.
Let's see. Other news. I'll give updates to Ryan. Ryan's been hunting in somewhere. I can't remember where for the last few days. He has this amazing facial hair right now that Nicole absolutely loves. Just fantastic.
How do you feel
A little
about
bit
it?
of sarcasm. Whatever. I mean, would I keep it? No, because I think I like my presentation matters a lot to me, and if I'm going to be in front of people all day and I feel insecure about it, like I shave almost every day because I just think my facial hair looks like shit. But yeah, I don't think your need to impress people is that valuable to what you're trying to do right now with whether or not you have facial hair or not, you know.
I
So-
don't even remember that I have it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
then
know, and that's how it works.
I
right?
go look in the mirror.
Yeah,
I'm
and you're
like,
like, oh, totally. That's how it is when I'll shave my head, when I'll get a buzz cut. I'll be like, oh shit, I have a buzz cut. I totally forgot about that. But yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the making of this Leadville documentary. I know you kind of glanced over it, but this was the first real AION video. So AION's got the run club. It's got kind of this athletic brand of leisure. Basically, you have a sweatshop in my house. And then
I'm the worker.
Yeah, you're the worker. You and chat.
Yeah.
And then you also have kind of your media side because you're doing a
Uh-huh.
lot of video production for companies and you're doing video production for AION and also for me for the documentary. So talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, you ran Leadville, and the whole time, you know, this was also an athletic endeavor for me because day one I had 25,000 steps.
Wow.
Right. And then day two, you know, you finished pretty early, but we still walked out that far to you from the start line. I probably had at least 20, you know, maybe 15,000 on day two. Right. Yeah. And, you know, filming the documentary at the beginning was cool. It wasn't as fun. It was probably as fun for us comparatively to as fun as the race was for you. So like when you were having fun, it was fun for us to be there. When, you know, I got a call at 3 a.m. that Ryan's a mile away from this aid station. I'm like 10 minutes away. You know, I haven't slept at all. And also I thought my car was going to die. So we had to drive like 20 miles an hour the whole way there. You know, and we wake up and you just come through and I'm like, oh, like, you know, stop being a pussy. Like he's in the middle of a 100-mile race. I'm just tired from whatever. And so, you know, in capturing this every time, did you ever do the 4x4 by 48 challenge?
Nope, but I'm aware of it. Basically, you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours.
Totally. Yeah. Well, that's kind of like, it was that for the video, right? It was like film 20 minutes of footage every 4 hours for 48 hours. It was
Right.
like filming your documentary. And every time you'd leave, I'd get this huge rush of energy. and they'd be like, we have the perfect amount of time to not actually rest in between when we see him again, you know? And then we'd see you again, yada, yada, yada. And, I mean, filming it while we were going was really cool. It was kind of like a lot of pressure because I'd never done anything like that. And so it was like, make sure we get the shots, yada, yada. I would say the girls were definitely more frantic than I was in terms of making sure that you had your burgers or drinks or socks or whatever it is. And then
That's because you seen me do shit like this with a granola bar.
Yeah, I'm like,
Dirty
it'll
pair
be
of
fine.
socks.
It'll be fine. Yeah, and then editing it was really fun because I would say, if there's one like characteristic that I try that just happens to be a part of me is like being very intentional about like output and creativity and stuff like this, like the videos that I've made for brands and stuff. And so when I made your documentary, I'm like, a big thing for me is I don't want it to be another piece of like the matrix puzzle of how things are made. If you look at Leadville documentaries or race documentaries, it's this post interview that they piece in with race content and yada yada yada, and then it comes together. And I was like, okay, well, this is the footage I have, this is all the footage I'm going to allow myself to use, and how can I bring in music and sound to affect emotion and play in with like how the experience was going for you, so it's like at the beginning we had that song come on and everyone loves that like entry song.
That entry song
like,
is so hard.
It's so cool.
Gives
right?
me goosebumps every time I hear it.
And like it's the perfect sound for like this idea of this massive journey that you're about to go on. Yeah,
crazy.
And it's super beautiful. And then it goes straight to the reality of you're in a car at 2:45 in the morning and we're driving to the start line, right? And like you're doing breath work, and in your head you might think of this memory as being super nostalgic, or looking into the forward of like a race in the future will be nostalgic. But when you're in it, it's actually like not that comfortable, like when you're in the car and you're like getting your bag together and stuff, you're not just really relaxed and like in this beautiful moment, even though it looks like that in the video. It's like, man, I don't feel as good as I thought I would, right? Or I don't feel completely balanced, or I'm more tired than I thought it would be, or my body is tighter than I thought it would be, or
like
something
that
like
night,
this.
I just couldn't sleep the night before.
You don't sleep.
You just
like it just doesn't happen that way.
I'm-
They should just start the races at fucking 7 p.m.
We went in that we stayed in Copper because I didn't want to be near the commotion. I cannot stand like crowds and stuff like that, and so I was like, let's just stay 25 minutes down the road, which was an amazing decision.
Yeah,
the place was
totally
amazing. And then I get into, I guess, I don't know, because it's a mountain town, none of the places have heat. They all have,
no, it's the opposite.
none of
They
them
don't
have air
AC.
conditioning.
Yeah,
They all
yeah.
have heat, but they don't have AC. And so I get into that bedroom at night. I hadn't gone in there while we were having dinner, and it's like 90 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just laying there the night before my 100. I've got to be up in a couple hours, 3 a.m., and I'm roasting. And I'm like, can someone turn on the AC? And everyone's like trying to help find it.
There is no AC.
There's no AC.
And
You're
the windows don't open because we're in like a condo rent out hotel situation, like it's not like that. We tried to open the windows in our room and it just has like the hallway lights are just shining into our room. And we're like, okay, well,
So we're
just gonna be hot.
Yeah.
And
It's,
yeah, I mean the reality of like these races, like Nick Bear is like a really good example, right? Like you watch him train. He wakes up really early every day and like runs a 7 miler, it seems like, as a ritual now. And it's like, those aren't fun, first off. Sometimes they're beautiful and like you have amazing mornings, and that usually comes after you've been doing it for like 3 months, right? But even how unfun those are, you feel worse on race day. Usually, like you're like, I'm malnourished. A lot of people like carb loading always jacked me up. It's like I feel worse today because I've had 8 boxes of pasta in the last 4 days or whatever it is. And so whenever I was putting the like film together, it went from beauty to reality really quick. And it was like, hey, this is fun and the crew's very excited for you, and it's way more nostalgic for them, I would say. I would not even say us, because for me it was like, all right, dude, get the shots, you know, like you don't even know what these shots are, but you better be on top of it. And it's like, oh, it's super dark, I can't see anything. I also don't want to be obnoxious at all. Like that's a big thing with me filming, is like I don't want you to be this character that's like an influencer or something, because both of us are very much not that, right? And then
I wish I was sometimes.
yeah,
Maybe I need to talk to Chad about this.
Yeah, talk to Chat GPT. Hey Chat, I need to be an influencer. And then yeah, I mean the film's super beautiful. It's only 20 minutes, which was like my goal was to have it be like 15 minutes, because I think there's this dude that just did the Ironman in Antarctica. Have you seen this? A guy just completed an Ironman in Antarctica, and I think that's amazing, and I think it's so cool. But his documentary's freaking 2 hours long.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, looks like I'm not going to learn anything about this, because I don't have 2 hours to watch your, you know, I would listen to your podcast with Rich Roll or whatever, because I have 2 hours of drive time. 2 hour documentary, because a lot of people think that, you know, the more you need to put everything in there. People think that you need to put all of the material that you capture within the documentary. Like there are many parts that if I would have showed it, let's say, to the crew before, they'd have been like, oh no, we need that piece because it is fun or like loving or whatever. And it's like, no, you need to trim the fat as much as you possibly can. It's like moving, right? It's like when we moved to Aaron, and Aaron's like, we need to keep this. I'm like, no, you either need it and you use it all the time, or we don't keep it, right? And she still has way more stuff than she needs. And so with video, it's the same thing. When you're clipping stuff together, the amount of footage that you cut, like it's a 20-minute video and it was like 100 gigs worth of film material, right? And so yeah, I don't know, it came out really dope. It seems like people really liked it. It seems to, I would hope that it benefits you in some way, you know, like if it brings opportunity or whatever it may be. But for me at least, it was almost like practice. And then people saw that and they acknowledged that, like, oh, like you're legit doing things real, you know? And it's not even legit. Like I watch it and I'm like, man, I didn't have a stabilizer on my camera the whole time. Like it was handheld and like yada, yada, yada. But it's more like, oh, like this is actually, there's a quality about this that can't be replicated by just like going to film school or something. It's like, oh, there's an artistic aspect to this that although, you know, this might not be perfect, like this is really good and something beautiful and something that, you know, I'm glad I spent 20 minutes watching, or if it was a brand paid X amount of money for, yada, yada, yada. And so, yeah, but I mean, the amount of time that I spent editing was probably the amount of time that you spent racing, if not more.
I think Hannah Hunter said it really well, which is something I think you were touching on there, which is like if you were a professionally trained video editor, that movie wouldn't have been as good because like you have this very distinct style and it comes with everything that you do because you've kind of just gone through this like experimentation rather than, and that's a beautiful thing about social media is like you don't have to go to school to be a content creator. You can just figure out what your style is, and you have this very distinct style that's just like, that's how whatever projects you worked on over the last 5 years have turned you into this type of editor, this type of photo taker, and you have like a very distinct style. If you made a video about the Western States 100 and you showed me 10 videos, I would be able to pick out which one was Jacob's in a heartbeat.
For sure.
Because it would start with some EDM drop and be like,
some crazy sounds. Yeah. I think here's something fun that you wouldn't know is I was like obsessed with music videos growing up as a kid. You know, like when I was like a teenager and stuff, like the coolest thing to be would have been like to be like Drake at the time, right? And so in order to like see what their life was like, I started a clothing company in college called Know the Road, and the whole idea was actually like know the process of actually going towards the life that you want to have. It's like still AION, you know, everything's still the same. But what I did is I watched every interview of every music artist and then eventually like CEO and stuff like this. And I was like, okay, how did they, it started with like, Will Smith at the time was super popular for being like very inspiring. And then it was like Kanye, and then it was The Weeknd and Drake, and then I was like, oh, let me listen to every music artist that I listened to, all of their interviews. So I would obsessively listen to interviews, and then that turned into like Elon Musk, which turned into like Jordan Peterson, which was more like on a development side, and then David Goggins, and at the same time like the people that were creating the brands that I liked. And the stuff that stuck with me big time, especially at that time, was like Jordan Peterson and David Goggins. Jordan Peterson was like, develop your logos for life. And David Goggins was like, find the potential inside of you by working as hard as you possibly can, right? And so with that, though, I've watched so many films. And I watched so many music videos growing up. And so now when I think of like, okay, how do you document Leadville, let's say, or how do you create this video for a brand? You just make it look like real life, because it is real life. Like I just shot a video for Oslo while you were gone with,
shout out Oslo.
Your sister. Yeah. Shout out Oslo and
Sponsor
Sam.
the pod.
And like your sister and Nicole and Aaron and Osborne and stuff. And I was like, how do we make this look good? Well, we'll bring homemade guac and chips, and we'll actually just have like a little barbecue in the mountains, and I'll just like capture clips, because that's the best way to do things, as opposed to being like, hey, here's a bunch of people that don't know each other. So we're going to fake all of this, friendly energy. And then we're going to have this completely staged thing. It's like, hey, let's get a bunch of friends together that already love each other, give them this drink and really good food in a beautiful setting, and the content's going to go fantastic.
It's amazing.
And I feel like that's how everything should work,
And luckily Sam is down for that, because I asked Sam when we did a video partnership with Oslo, I was like, hey, what do you have in mind? He's like, very open-minded. He's like, yeah, just make it authentic, make it, whatever you guys would normally do. And so I just had friends come over, and I was like, yo, we're going to work out and cool off with some Oslo, and that's going to be it. And Hannah asked, she's like, for the video, do you think Ryan's gonna like make a real workout, or are we just gonna look like we're working out? Osborne's like,
we're gonna work out.
You should be ready to work
We're gonna work out, yeah.
And I just made just a massacre. I mean, by the end, we're all like,
oh, it looked terrible,
coughing up lungs, doing max speed tests, and I'm like, I'm not gonna fake it.
Yeah,
we're not.
You can't fake it if you want this. Because if the goal of video is to touch emotion, which is pretty much what video is for, you can't fake it. And even like you made the giveaway video, and I thought it was brilliant, because yes, obviously it's fake, right? Like there's not a crocodile in the river. It was this bag of protein, but it was so like genuinely you, and like you were almost not faking the fact that you're following a script, right? You weren't faking a script and like trying to make it look like a movie. You were showing a real Ryan having to do a script for this giveaway, and people fucking loved it, right? And I thought it looked great. The way that it was shot was fantastic. And it's like, that's the key. That's literally the key for everything. How do you make Run Club? How do I make Run Club for AION successful? You just make it as good as you possibly can. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, how do we create the best hybrid training program ever out of KULA? It's like, well, we talk to everyone that's the best at, let's say, high rocks and hybrid training in general. We learn as much as we can, and then we create the best experience within, I would definitely say, the best facility in Denver. Like, it's for sure the most advanced facility in Denver. And so it's like, well, okay, so and how do we grow this membership, and how do we make it worth it for people? And it's like, well, how do you grow members? You make it worth it for people. So what's the offer? Well, what do you think would make it worth it to these people, and like, what are the promos and what are the events that we do? And I'm like, man, there's the corporate way of doing things, and then there's the completely honest way of like, hey guys, we're doing this launch event. I would love for you to come. You don't have to sign up today, but it's definitely going to be worth the money that you'll pay to sign up. And if this is what you're into, it will definitely make your life better. If you can't afford it or whatever, that's fine. Or if you don't want to do this or stay at your other gym, that's fine. I'd still love for you to come to the launch event, but just know, like, this is going to be worth it. And we're going to try really hard to make sure that this is like the best product that you can have, right? And that's one of your superpowers, is just like
getting people's trust because you are very authentic with your delivery. Folks know that they're getting the real version of you, and some people might not even they might not like it,
For
but
sure,
like
yeah,
you very much like call things how you see it, and
Yeah.
I think people appreciate that in today's world where everything's most heads of companies or founders or startup people are just trying to appease to everyone rather than
And all the
tell it how it is.
influencers are like doing that, like it seems to be how you break through the matrix of like not getting engagement is like, hey, just tell the truth. I was talking to my client yesterday and she was like she's like a divorced mom, right? And she was like, I like actually have a crush on someone that I haven't, that a coworker of mine. And she was like, he's going through a divorce too. This is like not a life that I'm aware of, right? Or have any, no experience in this. But she was like, but I don't know how to, when I'll be able to approach him or tell him, yada, yada. And I was like, oh, it's actually really simple. You just go up to him and you say, hey, I understand that you're going through a divorce right now, but I also am like really into you. And whenever it feels right to go on a date, I would love to go on a date. And that actually is the way that you like win the relationship. You know what my pickup line, my riz for Aaron was? Hey, I've had a crush on you for months. We should hang out. Like that's what it was. And now we've been dating for a year and a half. And so I guess if I've learned anything in life, and honestly, this is a big thing from Jordan Peterson. It's just like, if you always tell the truth, then you'll create the reality that is the truth, and you won't have to like distrust it at all. And so how I took that was just like, always tell the truth and things will go how they're supposed to, and you just react accordingly. And it seems like when you tell the truth and you're coming from a good place and you're trying hard and you want things to go well, then things seem to go well. And so, yeah.
And right now, you can tell me you can't talk about it if you want to, but it seems like, and this is a little premature, but this partnership with KULA seems to be something that's really working out in your favor. And it's very early stages. Could be a disaster. Business is business and things don't work out. But from where I sit, my ignorant perspective is like, wow, this is a beautiful marriage of an elite training facility, a guy who's leading it in KULA that seems very interested in the same kind of thing you are, which is taking really high level athletes and giving them a place to get to the next level. What can you tell us about the marriage of AION and KULA and the offer specifically today, or is it too early?
Yeah, I mean, it's so Nyron is a friend of mine that's the vice president of KULA. He's the whole reason like this happened. He came, and this is another thing of like the universe assists you if you go on the path, because Nyron and I met on the first AION night hike. Like I'd never spoke to him in person, right? Like I saw him on the internet, he was doing badass stuff, and so I would like give him likes. Maybe I DM'd him, I was like, yo, this is sick. But he came on the first night hike and we talked, and I put him in my car because I just knew I like had to chat with this guy, and we like really hit it off. And he told me that he was with KULA, and I didn't even know this until yesterday, but he had only been with KULA for like 2 months at that point.
Okay.
And he's fully the vice president of this, millions of dollars a year revenue, like facility and training program and idea and stuff. And so, he's the reason we got this opportunity to have this event. And then if you just go down like the trail of the line, like it's completely, we were talking yesterday, and he said it was God's timing for like KULA got into his life. He was the youngest general manager ever of Avasa. And then he left that and he ran like a BFT, which I guess is like an Orange Theory kind of thing. Completely crushed it on that end. And then KULA was like, come work for me. He quit his job. 2 days later, he's working for KULA, right? Now he's the vice president. They have something called Speed Town that he has equity in. Like, he's absolutely killing it. He's 25 years old. And he's the reason, I got this opportunity to have the event, so on and so forth. And then he approached KULA and was like, hey, I think AION/Jacob should like lead this program. Like this should be the way that KULA does adult performance. And so, we didn't it's not just like, hey, here's like a salary. It's like, hey, here's a partnership of like revenue share. And if if this grows to X amount of people, you make money according, based on that. And so in my head, it's like the first opportunity to have my own gym, right? Except I don't have to pay millions of dollars for the equipment that we have at this facility. And so, again, to me, it's like, okay, well, how do I make this the best thing ever? And like, for example, off the record or off the mic here, we're going to have a conversation. I've been waiting for you to get back because I want to have a conversation on like anaerobic training and like threshold training and your view on this, because I think you really know these things. And this has been the main thing I'm studying, is like, I can definitely train hybrid like strength development and stuff like this, but knowing how to take people to anaerobic workouts, threshold workouts. I've been looking at all I did this morning at Corvus for 2 hours was study running training and heart rate training and stuff like this specific to high rocks. Because I think what could potentially happen is that this KULA AION partnership creates some of the best high rocks athletes in the US. Like I think that we can start going to races, or at least attract the people that want to be on that level and go to these races and perform really well. Do I think that that's what everyone in the membership will be? No, I think the goal of this is to create a really healthy and higher performance life for everyone that's a part of the program, right? Because we want 200 members. Obviously, we're not going to have 200 elite high rocks athletes, or even 200 high rocks athletes altogether. We want it to be enjoyable, engaging, and beneficial for everyone. It just happens to also make people really good at high rocks, and I think those go hand in hand anyways.
Right. It's like it's just the gap between where you're starting and where you're going, right? It's like what you're saying is you want to make everyone 10% better. So it's like, yeah, you can make the person who's in the 50th percentile 10% better, right? That could be your dad,
Totally.
Make him 10% better. If you make Rich Ryan 10% better, right? Like you're trying to make the same jump with all these individuals. They just have different starting points. And
well, it's the same methods of training benefit everybody.
Sure.
Right? Like if we do cardio training 2 or 3 days a week and strength training 2 or 3 days a week, that makes everyone better. If we do it in a style that makes you really good at high rocks, then that makes everyone that wants to do high rocks a lot better at high rocks, right? And so that's what I've been navigating over the last, call it 5 days. It's like, okay, if the goal is to not just do things, but to do them the best that we possibly can, how do we create the best high rocks training in-person facility and program that I can see exists right now? We have like house training from Hunter and like RMR and stuff from Rich Ryan, and these are all online things, but how do we create a inland facility that is breeding studs and also people that don't want to be the studs? They come and they really enjoy these workouts. And I would say my superpower or gift in terms of being a coach has just been the ability to make things fun and enjoyable within training. And so now it's like, okay, and then for myself, I'll train really hard and do high rock specific stuff and yada yada yada. Now how do we bring forces together, learn from people like you and Luis and Chris or whoever, take all of these training principles, mesh them into the best program possible, and then make it as fun and engaging and valuable and developmental as possible for the member, right? And so we start classes December 2nd, so I have a month basically to create like the best training program and like marketing and development and advertising and stuff.
And it's reassuring knowing that the first iteration is not going to be the final product. That's the great thing about being in a gym. It's like you're constantly changing and altering and making the space work in different ways. But I think what I've seen for you, and I think I've expressed this in a multitude of ways, is like you have a boundless amount of energy. You just needed a mentor to put you in a position where you could run. It's like you're a wound up box car. You just need the hand of God to set you on a track and just let it take off, right? Yeah. And a lot of people may act like they're going to be that person for you, but it just hasn't happened. I haven't seen that fit yet. And it seems like this truly might be that fit.
Well, this is I think a big issue before has been that it's not a partnership. I'm an employee.
Mm-hmm.
So there's rules that I have to follow.
Mm-hmm.
I have free reign with this. So it's more like, hey, they'll benefit tremendously financially and notoriety and, stuff like that if this goes really well. They're giving
a bunch of dope footage of their gym.
Yeah, for sure. They're gonna have a ton of media. But for me, it's like, all right, you've been in the batting cages for the last 2 years. Can you actually hit a home run whenever you come up to the plate, right? And so now it's like, and it's not just about hitting a home run. It's about hitting a home run every game that you play. Like that's how I'm viewing things. Sam Oslo texted me how the KULA event went, and I said home run, right? That was just my reply.
Green light.
And then green light. and then we did the photo and video shoot for him the next weekend. And I texted him and he said, "Yo, how did it go?" And I said, "Home run." And then I sent him the photos. And they were like the best photos I've ever taken, right? And so now from this point of view, for myself, it's like the preparation that goes into things. It's like, dude, if you're going to be rookie of the year, fucking be rookie of the year. Like, don't look at anything else. Like I had a huge ego death at a concert recently when it was like, I was trying to be high level athlete, getting injured. Then it was like, wait, why do you want to be a high level athlete? And it's like, oh, to show everyone else. What do you really care about? It's like energy and like creating events and like, doing things really well. And it's like, well, back off from High Rocks a little bit as an individual and make AION what you want it to be. Because I personally feel way more satisfaction from like how the KULA night went versus me winning a High Rocks race.
Yeah.
Because everyone shared this energy together. And it was the culmination of, let's say, the training that went into it. If you win a High Rocks race, you won. That's it. If the KULA event goes well, we all won because we all had a great time. And if it goes bad, then we all lost, and that feels even worse maybe, right? But I had this huge, realization of like, dude, you don't want to be a professional athlete. A lot of my athletic drive was that you and all of my friends are fucking badass athletes, right? Like, I don't want Steven Nuschler to beat me if we race a High Rocks, right? Or something like this. And it was like, okay, work. It was like, dude, you're spending all these hours on training, which I really love to do, but it's actually not the main thing that I want to do with my life. Like AION is what I want to do with my life and is the longevity route. And it's like, this isn't a settling at all. It's actually just a focus and a realization of like, this is the thing that brings you the ultimate joy and like fulfills the destiny. I never thought my destiny was to like be a professional athlete, right? And so yeah, that's, I can't remember why we were talking about that, but
he did the weave.
Yeah, I lost the weave.
I have an interesting thing that's just popped in my mind because you said that. So I had a quote that I lived by when I was a young kid. I'm like innately very hard on myself, and I think you probably are too. I think people that are innate achievers, people that like to like achieve things, like part of that is this energy of like being hard on themselves. That's just background for the way I was thinking as a child. But there was a quote I used to tell myself, and it was, be the only, and if not the only, the best. But in that quote, what comes first? Be the only.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I always thought about my life, was be the only person to do X, Y, or Z. Be the only person.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not going to be the only, be the best, right? If you are a professional athlete, and there's tons of professional athletes, be the best. But you're not going to be the only of High Rocks. And at this point, probably not going to even be the best, right? So when you think about prioritization, you can think about where is my only? Who am I the only?
And best, yeah.
Your only is going to be KULA. And I don't even think you have to settle down for best.
Mm-hmm.
I think you truly can be an only,
mm-hmm.
because being an only is cooler than being the best. Like 24 hours, cool, but that's a best, right? I'm the best at that, but I'm not the only.
Totally, yeah.
The only if you can be the only person to do something,
So
that's true uniqueness and freedom and creativity.
this is crazy because I met with Jared whenever I got this offer from KULA. I met with Jared right away, right? Like Jared and Austin Philbin are like my two voices that I turn to.
Your
right?
mentors.
My mentors for sure. And I went to Jared right away, and I presented all of the stuff to him and like the ideas, yada yada yada. And he was like, the three things that we talk about in my company are first, best, and only.
Mm.
And he was like, right now you have the opportunity to do all three. You can be the first high rocks training gym at altitude. You can be the best. You have the best facility, and you're the only people doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he's framing it from an altitude perspective. And in the US, we're really like, if we turn it into what we want it to become, we're really going to be the only gym that I know of doing that. Yes, F45 has partnerships, or like the little box gyms, like the high-end box gyms in New York somewhere, something like this. But in terms of a real facility, like you walk into KULA, I think when you were talking about it earlier, I was like, it feels like you're a college athlete walking into a training facility.
It reminds me exactly of our college weight room.
For sure.
It's but a lot nicer.
Oh, yeah. It's high-end.
It's the same
For
vibe,
sure.
but a lot nicer. And what I said the second time we went in there, Osborne and Nicole and I went in there the next day. Shout out to Osborne and Nicole. They're the reason we won.
Yeah, totally.
But the thing that I said to them was, I think this place is allergic to anything that's not red or black. It's the only gym I've ever been in where, you have bands, and it's like there's the purple band, and there's the green band, there's red band, and they're different, and they're colored so that you can refer to them as the green band.
Yeah.
At KULA, every band, it doesn't matter, thick, thin, wide, short, long, black.
Totally.
And it gives it this like ambiance. When you look out into KULA, it's just like the entire thing has been spray painted. And they don't allow a Bosu ball in there. They don't allow
there's no yellows, no blues, nothing like that.
The cones,
except for the jerseys on the wall.
The cones aren't orange. They're red.
Yeah.
Literally, it's red.
If you
and
ask
black.
Luis, he was saying he used to have to tell me that I need to add color in my designs because I would only do black and red. With AION, with M Running Club, everything was always black and red. So it really is like a, match made in heaven.
That is very weird.
Yeah.
All right,
it's crazy.
Dude. Well, this is great. I think we should do more pods together.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, let me jump in. I feel like me, you, and Osborne, we should just create like a little fucking like social whatever, just like a hop on thing.
I want this podcast to be more community. I don't know, community's been a big thing on my mind lately. I want it to be more like, don't get me wrong, I want the guests to be on still, but I still want just episodes
like
of
Joe
us
Rogan
talking.
has his with like
his main voice,
his main guys that happens once a month.
Same with
like
Flagrant,
totally.
I would say most do that and have kind of like their co-hosts and their homies that come in. So
for sure.
All right, dude. Till next
You're
time,
awesome.
y'all. Stay wild.
Later.